What gives land in the metaverse value? Is it even rare? Does it even have any real uses? If you've ever asked yourself any of these questions, then this is the video for you, because in this video, we're gonna be breaking down what makes Metaverse Land valuable, what I look for when I'm personally investing in Metaverse Land, and how you can profit off of what I think is going to be a massive opportunity. So markets might be down, but my enthusiasm is at an all-time high, because guess what? When the mainstream media starts to turn its eyes elsewhere and the public conscience stops focusing on the metaverse like we are starting to see, opportunities start to become a lot more common, because there's just a lot less people that are trying to jump into this metaverse opportunity. And when prices start getting lower, I start getting excited, because personally, I believe that the metaverse is going to be one of the biggest investment opportunities of our generation. It's going to be a major investment theme, and the world hasn't really even realized it yet. So in today's video, I want to keep the education coming so that you guys can profit off of this massive metaverse opportunity. And we're going to be talking about what gives land in the metaverse value. And we're going to be looking at three things specifically that I think are very important when you're trying to invest in land in the metaverse, and kind of some of the checklists that I run through when I am investing in Metaverse Land. And I have had a lot of successful Metaverse Land investments, and yeah, we might be going into some of those as well in this video. So if that sounds good to you, remember to drop a big thumbs up, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed already. This video is sponsored by FTX, but more on that later. Let's get into the video. For those of you guys who have invested in land that's kind of on Earth, like real land, some of these things that I'm going to point out for you of what gives a Metaverse Land value is going to make a lot of sense, because things are not actually that different when you start looking at investing in the metaverse. The basic rules of investing still apply, even if you're in a virtual world rather than the real world. So the three things that make Metaverse Land valuable. The number one is going to be the same thing that makes land in real life valuable, and that is location. Now, the location in Metaverse Land can vary a lot, even a lot more than in real life, although there is a lot of different land that can exist in real life. For example, if you're looking at a plot of land that's right next to Disneyland, like that probably has a lot of value. Anaheim has so much traffic, there's so much demand for property there, and a small piece of land is going to be worth a ton. Whereas if you're looking at some kind of land that's like, I don't know, maybe in a place where there's not many people, like one of the pools, you could probably buy a lot of land for almost no money at all. Yet the land that's a lot less, for a lot more expensive, could turn out to be a lot better investment because of its location next to Disneyland. Whereas you're like, oh man, so much more land, so much cheaper, it's in one of the pools, but you might not ever be able to sell it. So the same rules apply in land in the metaverse. So there are a lot of different companies that are building these different worlds where you can buy metaverse land, and location is just as important in Metaverse Land as it is in the real world. So for example, if there is a new team that's like launching a project and they're like, this metaverse is going to be awesome, and you like buy some land in this metaverse, and then it turns out they finish building the world, they like do everything they say they're going to do, but the game has 5 daily players or 5 monthly players, then it doesn't really matter if you have like eons of infinite land in this metaverse. If no one's ever there, then it's not going to be that valuable for you. Whereas if you have land in the sandbox, potentially next to Snoop Dogg's mansion, and he's throwing concerts and parties all the time, and there's people swinging by Snoop Dogg's house in the sandbox all the time, well, you might pay a lot more money for that land next to Snoop Dogg's house, but because it is a popular metaverse location that might see hundreds of people swinging by every single hour, you can see how that could bring it a lot more valuable. So finding where you want to own land in the metaverse, finding good locations, finding popular worlds is going to be really, really important, and that is going to give the Metaverse Land a lot of its value. where it exists and how popular those worlds are, that you actually own your land in the metaverse. Because even though there is an infinite number of like potential digital land that can exist, there is going to be a finite number of pieces of the metaverse that are actually highly trafficked. And that is where you want to own land in the metaverse if you're planning on actually making a profit off of that land that you own in the metaverse. But now let's talk about the second thing that is really important and gives Metaverse Land its value. This second thing is not to be underestimated, and that is the utility of the land that you own in the metaverse. And that just means like what it can be used for. Like, what can you actually do with the land? Can you build stuff in it? Can you actually sell things for like crypto in it? Like, can you generate real revenue? Is there like real business opportunities out of this land? What can you actually do with the land? A lot of land in the metaverse is actually going to have a lot of utility in that metaverse's game world. So for example, a lot of land that I own is in a metaverse called Mirandus, which is this medieval fantasy role-playing game. And like one of the pieces of land that I own is a duke. So for that piece of land, I can like set up weapon shops and like temples and like graveyards and like literally a lot of the infrastructure that players in this game are going to use in that metaverse. So there's a lot of real utility that my land has. So knowing what uses your land have in the metaverse is going to be really important, because guys, the uses that your land can have, trust me, it's not less than land can have in the real world. In fact, it's probably a lot more, and it's gonna vary a lot more too. Like land in the real world, not created equal. Like for example, I was looking to buy a lot of land in the Houston, Texas area, because I was like, man, that would be really cool. And like there was this like 27 acres that I could buy for like 30 grand. And I was like, well, that's crazy. Turns out the reason it was so cheap is because it's in a flood zone. So you can't build anything in it because if you build anything, then it like changes the flooding areas around you. So you just can't get any building permits. So it's like, oh, okay, that's why the land is so cheap, because you literally can't do anything with it. So the utility of the land that you're buying in the metaverse is gonna be a big factor in determining what its future value is going forward, and whether or not it's actually gonna be an asset for you going forward, because not all land is created equally. Now, third and finally, so remember the first thing, most important thing that gives the land in the metaverse value is its location. Second is its utility. And now third and finally, but trust me, this is very, very important. Don't disregard it just because it's third, is the rarity of the land that you own. So one important thing to note is that there is no like max supply on like the total amount of land that can exist digitally, but there is oftentimes limited amounts of land that can exist in a specific metaverse. So because game companies are creating these metaverses, they're determining the rules for their sectors. So if you think about the Oasis and Ready Player One, there are all these sectors, and depending on the sector that you are in, determine the rules of that part of the metaverse. So right now, each of the creators of these different worlds are determining the rules of these worlds. So that means that certain metaverses are going to have real rarities. For example, the number of land deeds in the MMO of Mirandus is under 2,000. The number of land deeds in the sandbox is like in the 200,000 range. But the point is that these metaverses have these set rules, these set parameters on the total amount of land that can exist in their metaverse. Axie Infinity, another example of Lunacia. It's gonna have a limited amount of land that's going to exist in that metaverse. So while another metaverse can be created and that new metaverse can have land in it, the specific location that you pick is going to have rarity parameters. So it's important to know how big is this world that I'm buying land in, because there's a lot of calculations that you can run in your head based on the total potential player base that might exist in the metaverse and the total amount of land that can exist in that metaverse. For example, if there's a metaverse that has only like 10 pieces of purchasable land, but millions of potential future players. Like, wow, each of those 10 pieces of land might be able to generate a lot, or might be worth a ton going forward, depending on what its use is in that metaverse. Whereas a world that's only gonna have 10 monthly players, but has 1 million pieces of land in it, like that rarity to total player base, all of that is going to affect the value of the land that you're buying. So these are the 3 big things to keep in mind, as they, I think, are really what determines the value of these pieces of Metaverse Land. Now, if you're watching this video and you're new and you're like, oh wow, that's so great, like thanks for teaching me about Metaverse Land, now I'm gonna go invest in some. I actually want to give you guys a few pieces of advice to end out this video, because there are, I think, 2 kind of different types of metaverses that you can invest in currently. There's the pre-release metaverse, where it's just promises, and then there are the already playable metaverses that are maybe in progress or completed. And I think when you're investing in these 2 different types of metaverses, there's a couple tips that I have for you. So let's start with these unreleased metaverses. Some tips I have when you're buying land in these like unreleased worlds. Let me quickly interrupt this video to tell you about our sponsor, FTX. Now, honestly, I'm a little bit humbled even that FTX sponsors on-chain gaming. I think FTX is the best crypto exchange in the world right now. And FTX US just launched a brand new gaming division called FTX Gaming. And what is so cool about FTX Gaming is that they literally created this new division to help gaming studios integrate NFTs and crypto into new games. So FTX literally created this division to try and make crypto gaming and NFT gaming, to try and make player ownership happen faster. So that is really awesome. And I'm sure that all the games that, you know, come out using NFTs through FTX's new division are going to be selling their NFTs on FTX's new NFT marketplace. So definitely create an account on FTX using our links in the description. There is one link for the mobile app and then another link for the web app, and using either of these links will give you cool bonuses. Already FTX has the lowest trading fees out of any exchange in the world, but using our links will give you free crypto on every trade and a discount on your trading fees. So yeah, guys, I highly recommend using FTX. Support them because they're supporting NFT crypto gaming. Plus, they give you the best experience. Also, they're US regulated. They follow all the guidelines and everything. So completely safe to use them. And it's a great way to start getting into NFT gaming, getting into crypto, getting into NFTs. Do it on FTX. First is, when you're buying a world that you can't jump in, that you can't try out, the most important thing is the team behind that metaverse. Look at what games they've built in the past. Look at their past successes, look at their track records, because that is going to be a big factor in determining what they're able to accomplish in the future. Someone who has built a ton of incredible things in the past over and over again, like there's a pretty good chance, it's not guaranteed, but there's a pretty good chance they're gonna build something that like rings the bell, that like succeeds again. Because if they've made something really fun that a lot of people have loved a bunch of times in a row, like yeah, they got it in them. They can probably do it again. Whereas if someone is promising all this and they've like rug pulled and they've like made some games that have failed that no one's bought, or made some games that aren't fun, and it's like they're just trying to like make some money. A lot of people are just trying to make money in crypto. That might be a world that you want to avoid, even if the vision sounds really awesome. So teams are very, very important. Do your due diligence on the teams. Like if you're investing, guys, in land, in a metaverse, it's almost like you're investing in a company, really. Like the people behind that metaverse are going to determine whether or not that land that you're buying is gonna have long-term value or not, because they have to execute if you're buying land in an unreleased world. So just keep that in mind. Second, look at the potential like price appreciation. Like look for a discount, essentially, I guess is kind of the second thing that I want to say here. Look at that potential upside that exists in already released worlds. Like what are these already released worlds that are maybe comparable? What is land in these worlds going for? And then look for companies that are actually giving early supporters a good deal, because this is another thing that's true. Not all unreleased worlds are discounting you for the fact that the world's not out yet. Like some are like really like, we're gonna charge you full price for this land, even though you can't play the game, you don't know if it's fun. So yeah, you should be expecting some kind of discount because of the risk of, you know, the world's not playable. You can't jump in it. There's no player base. People, you don't know if it's fun. Like games can flop. And if there's not a discount on a world that's not out yet, there has to be like insane potential there, or maybe don't invest in that Metaverse land. But now let's look a couple tips on investing in metaverses that are already released. One, player count. Look that up. See how many people are actually into this world that you want to invest in. There are a lot of worlds that exist that have big market caps and a lot of name recognition, but nobody actually plays in them, like Decentraland. Decentraland has like 300,000 people that jump in every month, but it's like literally people just checking it out. Like no one is actually logging in over and over again. Like the number of hours per player is so small, and the number of like times each player is logging in is like once or 1.5 times. Like no one is jumping in this world over and over again. So these sorts of statistics, very, very important to look at when you're investing in lands and worlds that, like, you know, they're already out. You can see, you can compare how many people are already playing in these different metaverses. Second thing that's very important to look at is fun. Like, do you actually enjoy spending time in this metaverse? Guys, if people do not enjoy spending time in a metaverse, no one will spend time in that metaverse, or people will not spend time in that metaverse, because guess what? There are going to be so many different metaverse games, crypto games launched, that people are going to have a choice. They're going to be able to decide what world they want to exist in. And just like, you know, in the United States, you can go to whatever state you want. You kind of vote with your feet, which kind of keeps different states within the United States accountable, because, you know, people leave, like California right now, if you do a lot of idiotic stuff. And that's going to be exactly true for metaverses. Metaverses that aren't fun, people are going to leave and they're going to take their money with them. And these metaverses are going to, you know, they're going to be left dry and empty. So invest in metaverses that are fun. Fun is so important. I cannot stress this enough, because games that are fun, the populations in these worlds are going to grow over time. Third, if you can buy land, or you're buying land, trying to invest in Metaverse land, in a metaverse that's already out, what earnings potential does it have? And if there's not earnings potential yet, is there earnings potential planned? Is there something coming in the future? Or if there is already earnings potential, how does that land generate earnings? And is it sustainable long term? These are the questions that you should be asking yourself, as they're gonna really help determine whether or not you're making good investments in Metaverse land and bad investments in Metaverse land. So that's about all that I had to share today. Hopefully that gave you a lot to think about. I mean, I'm sure for many of you it did, but hopefully it also just helped to give you a basic understanding of what gives land in the metaverse value, so that you kind of have like a framework, a building block, some fundamentals to go from here as you continue your metaverse investing journey. And then also, guys, if you did enjoy this video, make sure you're hitting those thumbs ups to help it in the YouTube algorithm, and then also hit subscribe.